My name is Harry, and I talk about why I'm not so hairy. Welcome back to my channel. As you can see, today we're back in our normal just sit down and chit chat area. And that's because today I just want to talk a little bit about mental health and alopecia. So, I want to start off with some statistics. A study published in 2022 reported that adults with alopecia areata were 30 to 38% more likely to be diagnosed with depression. So, not necessarily that depression causes the disease, but the disease can cause depression. And having alopecia, there's a lot of different feelings that one might feel. So you could feel alone, you could feel isolated, you could feel feelings of grief. You can be very fearful that others might find out that you have no hair or that you wear a wig. You can feel really embarrassed, really angry. You can blame yourself, put the blame on yourself for having alopecia. You can feel guilty that it affects your loved ones, like your parents or your friends. And you might feel like you really, really have to find an answer or a cure. Because hair is just such a big part of, how we can identify ourselves or how we see ourselves, when someone loses their hair, it can really affect their self-esteem and how they view themselves. And something that I've heard about alopecia that's just kind of stuck with me, not necessarily true for myself, but that's just kind of stuck in the back of my mind, is that alopecia isn't a life-threatening disease, but it can be life-ruining. And so I just want to talk a little bit about my mental health with alopecia. So, growing up, like I've mentioned before, when I wore the wigs, I was really in denial about having alopecia, honestly. So I don't think it affected me that much in that way, like my self esteem in that way, but it did make me very, very fearful that somebody would find out or that somebody would pull off my wig would fall off, all those things. So I had a lot of anxiety around alopecia. And then there's also that side of, okay, my hair's grown back and now I just have PTSD and I'm really, really, really scared of it falling out and having to go through that whole process again. So I've also dealt with that. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend like all those feelings are completely gone. I mean, I have accepted it and I feel way better about it, but there are still some days when my self esteem is low because of it. But I found better ways to cope with it. One of the biggest ways that have just like helped me make that switch of not accepting it to accepting it is really just changing my perspective on it. And so by that, I just mean instead of focusing on the negatives, I've just tried to change my perspective and flip it and focus on all the positives and the silver linings that have come with alopecia. I actually already have a video on my channel about that, so you should go watch that as well. Everything is what you make it. So if you sit there and you focus on the negatives of everything, that's all that will be of it. It'll just be a negative experience. But if you try and, find the silver linings and focus on the positives, it can be more positive and you can kind of turn around how you see it. I also do just want to point out that all the feelings that you feel with alopecia are completely valid. Don't let anyone ever tell you that they're not. I recently went to a conference, an alopecia conference, and one of the sessions was talking about alopecia and the grief cycle. So, this is the grief cycle. And you can grieve anything, and hair loss is one of those things. And so when you look at this, it's not linear. You can start to accept it and then you can go back down, and you shouldn't beat yourself up or feel bad if you're at any stages on this grief cycle. Getting support can be another really good thing that could be helpful. I personally haven't talked to a therapist about it just yet, but I can say that from going to support groups and being surrounded by others who are going through the similar struggles as me has been very helpful. Alopecia can also affect your relationship. So, like when it comes to work, I struggled with whether or not or how I was going to tell my coworkers and my managers. And I think it at the end of the day, it really just does depend on how close you are with them and everything. Um, Luckily, my team made me feel very good when I told them. They accepted me just how I am, but that can be something that's tricky to navigate. Also, when it comes to new relationships with friends or romantic partners, it can be tough of when to decide to tell them about it. But I have found that it's only strengthened my relationships with people. The people that have accepted me, I know that they're my true friends, and if they haven't, then they're not. So honestly, I think that's one of the silver linings. And that's all for today's video. If you have any other questions about how alopecia has affected my mental health specifically, just let me know in the comments and I'll be sure to answer. Make sure you subscribe and like the like button, and please send this video to somebody who you think it could help. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.